What was that? I have to get out of here!
I know what happened to him.
"Marry me, miss," the little boy whispered, his voice trembling with hope and desperation. Maya Watson froze, her hand still gripping the edge of the counter she'd been hiding behind, her heart hammering so loud she was certain the debt collectors outside would hear it. She looked down at the child who'd just appeared from nowhere, no older than 5, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her entire year's rent, holding out a plastic ring like it was made of diamonds. "Please," he said again, those dark eyes too serious for someone so small. "If you marry me, my daddy will make the bad guys go away. He always does." Maya's breath caught. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. She'd been working at the Golden Dragon restaurant for 3 months, barely scraping by, sending money back home to pay off debts her brother had accumulated in her name. Tonight, those debts had caught up with her. 3 men were outside right now, voices raised, demanding she come out and discuss payment options. She knew what that meant. She'd seen the bruises on other people who'd fallen behind. And now this child, this beautiful, impossibly well-dressed child, was offering her salvation through a child's game of pretend. "You want me to marry you?" Maya asked gently, reaching out to ruffle his perfectly styled hair. "And what makes you think your daddy can help me, little knight?" The boy's face lit up with pride. "My daddy is really, really powerful," he said, puffing out his chest. "He has a lot of money, like so much money, and people are scared of him. But he's nice to me. Well, mostly nice. He's very serious." The child paused, considering. "Actually, he's scary to everyone except me, but if you're my fiancé, he'll be nice to you too." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. In the midst of her terror, this little boy's innocence was the most beautiful thing she'd encountered in months. "Okay," she whispered, taking the plastic ring and slipping it onto her finger. "I'll marry you, and you'll tell your daddy about the bad guys?" "Yes!" Alessandro, she heard someone call his name earlier, exclaimed, grabbing her hand. "I promise, he'll fix everything." The kitchen door slammed open. But it wasn't the debt collectors. It was something infinitely more dangerous. Before we continue with what happened next, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love connecting with you all and seeing how far this story reaches. Now, let's see what Maya just walked into. The man who entered the kitchen moved like violence wrapped in expensive fabric. 6 feet 3 inches of controlled menace, his charcoal suit tailored so perfectly it looked like a second skin. His face was carved from marble, sharp jawline, high cheekbones, eyes so dark they appeared black in the dim lighting. But it was the way everyone in the restaurant suddenly went silent that told Maya everything she needed to know. This wasn't just any man. This was power personified. "Alessandro," the man said, his voice low and measured, each word precise. His Korean accent was slight but present, adding an edge to his English. "What are you doing in a restaurant kitchen?" The little boy beamed up at him. "Daddy, I found her, look!" He thrust Maya's hand up, showing off the plastic ring. "This is Miss Maya. She said yes. She's going to marry me, and now you have to protect her from the bad guys outside." The man's gaze shifted to Maya. She felt it like a physical force, his attention weighing on her, assessing her, cataloging every detail. His eyes traveled from her face down to the plastic ring on her finger, then back up to meet her terrified stare. Something flickered in those dark depths. Not anger exactly, something more complex, more dangerous. "Bad guys," Wu Bin repeated slowly, his tone flat. "What bad guys?" Before Maya could answer, one of the debt collectors burst through the door, red-faced and aggressive. "There you are, you little—" He stopped abruptly, his words dying as he registered Wu Bin's presence. The color drained from his face. "Mr. Song, I didn't know. We're just here for a routine collection." "From her?" Wu Bin asked, not moving, not raising his voice. Somehow, that made him more terrifying. The debt collector swallowed hard. She owes $43,000, sir. We're authorized to collect by any means. Leave. One word. That's all it took. The debt collector backed towards the door, hands raised. Of course, Mr. Song. We'll reschedule. You'll write off the debt, all of it, and you'll never contact this woman again. If I discover otherwise, I'll be very disappointed. You don't want to disappoint me. It wasn't a question. It was a promise wrapped in velvet-covered steel. The debt collector fled. Maya's legs gave out. She would have collapsed if Wu Bin hadn't moved with inhuman speed, catching her arm and steadying her. His grip was firm but surprisingly gentle. His hand was warm through the thin fabric of her uniform. "Thank you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face now that the danger had passed. "Thank you. I don't know how to—" "You accepted my son's proposal," Wu Bin said, his dark eyes still fixed on her face. "That comes with certain obligations on both sides." Maya's breath caught. "I didn't mean, it was just a game. He's a child." "Alessandro doesn't play games about family," Wu Bin interrupted. His thumb brushed across her wrist just once, so quickly she might have imagined it. "He's asked 3 women to marry him in his life. His mother, who abandoned us, his nanny, who was stealing from me, and now you." He paused. "He has excellent instincts about who can be trusted. So tell me, Miss Maya Watson, can you be trusted?" How did he know her full name? She hadn't told anyone. "I don't understand what you're asking," Maya said carefully. "I'm asking," Wu Bin said, releasing her arm and taking a measured step back, "if you're willing to make this arrangement real. Temporarily, of course. Alessandro needs stability, someone he can trust. Someone who isn't afraid of me, but also isn't plotting to use him for access to my resources." His expression remained unreadable. "In exchange, your debts disappear. All of them. You'll be paid a monthly salary of $10,000. You'll live in my home and care for my son, and you'll appear publicly as my fiancé when necessary." Maya's head spun. "You want me to pretend to be engaged to you, to be a nanny?" "I want you to keep the promise you made to my son," Wu Bin corrected. "He's 5 years old. His mother left him. He has nightmares about everyone leaving. Tonight, you gave him hope. I won't be the one to take that away." Something almost human flickered across his face. "Unless you're capable of the job, in which case I'll still clear your debts as thanks for the kindness you showed him, and we'll part ways." Maya's brain was spinning. Impossible choices. Maya looked down at Alessandro, who was watching her with such desperate hope it made her chest ache. Then she looked back at Wu Bin, this man who'd walked into her life like a force of nature, who'd eliminated her debts with 6 words, who was offering her more money than she'd ever dreamed of having, who also radiated danger from every pore. "1 year," she heard herself say. "I'll do it for 1 year. After that, we renegotiate." Wu Bin's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. 1 year, he agreed. "My driver will collect you tomorrow at 9. Bring whatever you need. Everything else will be provided." He turned to leave, Alessandro's hand in his, but paused at the door. "Miss Watson, in my world, contracts are binding. Once you agree, there's no backing out. Are you certain?" Maya looked at the plastic ring on her finger, at the kitchen where she'd been hiding in terror just minutes ago, at the door through which the debt collectors had fled. "I'm certain," she said. Wu Bin nodded once. Then he was gone, Alessandro waving goodbye with pure joy on his small face. Maya slid down the wall and sat on the kitchen floor, staring at nothing, trying to process what had just happened. She'd agreed to marry a child. No, she'd agreed to pretend to be engaged to a man who made grown men flee with a single glance, a man whose son wore $1,000 suits, a man who'd made $43,000 in debt vanish like it was nothing. What had she just agreed to? The next morning, a knock on Maya's apartment door at exactly 8:45. She opened it to find a woman in her 50s, impeccably dressed, holding a garment bag and a leather folder. "Miss Watson," she said with a polite bow, "I am Ara, Mr. Song's household manager. I'm here to assist with your transition. May I come in?" Maya stepped aside, suddenly hyper-aware of how shabby her studio apartment looked. The water-stained ceiling, the carpet with mysterious stains, the hot plate that was her only cooking appliance. Ara's expression never changed. "Mr. Song has arranged for your belongings to be packed and transported. However, he thought you might prefer to select your own items. I've brought appropriate clothing for your arrival at the estate." She hung the garment bag on the back of Maya's door. "The car will arrive in 10 minutes. Mr. Song doesn't like to be kept waiting." "Right," Maya said faintly. "Of course he doesn't." She packed quickly, mostly practical items, a few photos, her mother's jewelry. When she emerged from the bathroom in the outfit Ara had provided, elegant black pants and a silk blouse in deep emerald that fit like it had been made for her, she caught her reflection and barely recognized herself. She looked like she belonged in Wu Bin's world. That terrified her more than anything. The car was a black Mercedes with windows so darkly tinted they were almost opaque. The driver, a man who introduced himself only as Chen, drove in complete silence through Seoul's morning traffic. Maya watched the neighborhoods change from working class to middle class to something else entirely. Old money, power, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. The estate sat behind walls that looked decorative, but Maya suspected were reinforced steel. The gates opened smoothly as they approached. The mansion beyond was modern, all glass and clean lines, perched on a hillside with a view of Seoul that probably cost more than most buildings. "Welcome home, Miss Watson," Chen said as he opened her door. "Master Alessandro is waiting for you in the garden." Home. The word felt surreal. Maya found Alessandro in a massive garden that looked like something from a fairy tale. Manicured hedges, a koi pond, flowers she couldn't name. He was sitting on a stone bench, kicking his legs and reading a book about dragons. "Maya!" he shouted when he saw her, dropping the book and running to throw his arms around her legs. "You came! Daddy said you would, but I was worried you might change your mind." Maya knelt to hug him properly. "I promised, didn't I?" "Knights keep their promises." "And princesses," Alessandro said seriously. "You're a princess now. Daddy says so." "I don't think your daddy said exactly that." "He did," Wu Bin's voice came from behind her, in so many words. Maya stood quickly, turning to face him. In the morning light, he was somehow even more intimidating and disturbingly attractive. His suit today was charcoal gray, his hair styled back, a watch on his wrist that probably cost 6 figures. But it was his eyes that caught her. They were fixed on Alessandro with an expression that almost looked like tenderness. Almost. "Mr. Song," Maya said formally. "Wu Bin," he corrected. "We're engaged, after all. First names are appropriate." He gestured toward the house. "Ara will show you to your quarters. You're in the east wing, adjoining Alessandro's room." He insisted on the connecting door remaining unlocked. "For emergencies," Alessandro chimed in. "For emergencies," Wu Bin agreed, his lips twitching. To Maya, he added, "My son has an active imagination about threats. I've tried to explain that the estate has security measures that make Fort Knox look vulnerable, but he prefers his own contingency plans." "I like being prepared," Alessandro said defensively. Wu Bin's expression softened, actually genuinely softened. "I know you do, just like your father." The moment between them was so tender it made my chest ache. Whatever else Wu Bin was, dangerous, powerful, terrifying, he loved his son. That was evident in every line of his body. Later that afternoon, after Ara had shown her to quarters that were more luxurious than any hotel Maya had ever seen, after she'd unpacked her meager belongings into a walk-in closet already stocked with clothes in her exact size, after she'd tried not to cry at the sheer impossible reality of her situation, Maya ventured out to explore. She found herself in a library that could have swallowed her old apartment twice over. Books lined every wall from floor to ceiling. A rolling ladder provided access to the higher shelves. Comfortable chairs were positioned near windows with impossible views. And in one of those chairs sat Woo Bin, reading a book in Korean, a glass of whiskey at his elbow. "I didn't mean to interrupt," Maya said, starting to back toward the door. "You're not interrupting," Woo Bin said without looking up from his book. "This is your home now. You don't need permission to exist in it." Maya hesitated, then walked farther into the room, drawn by the books. She'd always loved reading, back when she'd had time for such luxuries. Her fingers trailed along the spines: classics, modern fiction, poetry, books in multiple languages. "You like to read," Woo Bin observed. It wasn't a question. "When I can," Maya admitted. "I haven't had much time lately. Working 3 jobs doesn't leave room for hobbies." 3 jobs? Woo Bin finally looked up at her, his dark eyes thoughtful. "To pay off debts your brother incurred in your name, according to my background check. He forged your signature on loan documents. You've been trying to pay them off for 2 years. You investigated me." "Extensively," Woo Bin confirmed without apology. "I don't allow unknown variables near my son. I know where you were born, where you went to school, every job you've held, every address you've lived at. I know about your mother's death 3 years ago, your father's before that. I know your brother is currently in Las Vegas, still gambling, still accumulating debts he'll never pay." He set his book aside. "I know you send money to your grandmother in Atlanta every month, even though you can barely eat. I know you're kind to strangers, honest to a fault, and fiercely loyal to people who don't deserve it." Maya's hands clenched into fists. "You had no right." "I had every right," Woo Bin interrupted, standing. He moved toward her with that predatory grace she was beginning to recognize. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive, cedar and smoke. Close enough to see the faint scar through her left eyebrow. Close enough that her breath came faster, her heart pounding for entirely different reasons than fear. "Mr. Song," Maya said formally. "Woo Bin," he corrected. "We're engaged, after all. First names are appropriate." He gestured toward the house. "I concluded," Woo Bin said softly, his voice dropping to something almost intimate, "that you're exactly what Alessandro needs. Someone genuine in a world of masks. Someone who'll protect him because it's right, not because it's profitable." His dark eyes searched hers. "What I haven't concluded is what to do about the fact that you're also exactly what I didn't need in my life right now." "What's that supposed to mean?" Maya whispered. "It means," Woo Bin started, then stopped. His jaw clenched. "It means you should go check on Alessandro. He'll want you to read to him before dinner." He turned and walked out of the library, leaving Maya standing alone among the books, her hand still tingling where he'd touched it, her heart racing with something she absolutely could not afford to feel. That evening, Maya discovered the estate's routines. Dinner was served at 7 in a formal dining room that could have seated 20, but tonight held only 3. Woo Bin at the head of the table, Maya and Alessandro on either side. The food was restaurant quality, prepared by a chef Maya never saw. Alessandro chattered throughout the meal about his day, lessons with his tutors, time in the dojo learning taekwondo, a new book about knights he wanted Maya to read to him. Woo Bin listened with that intense focus he seemed to give everything, occasionally asking questions that showed he'd been paying attention to every detail. "And Maya taught me a card game," Alessandro announced proudly. "She said her grandmother taught her, and it's about strategy and math and not letting people see what you're thinking." "Did she?" Woo Bin's gaze shifted to Maya, something unreadable in his expression. "That sounds useful." "It's just poker," Maya said quickly. "Basic poker. Nothing inappropriate for a child." Woo Bin's lips curved slightly. "Poker is an excellent lesson in reading people and controlling information. I approve." He turned back to Alessandro. "What did you learn?" "That Maya is really good at keeping a straight face," Alessandro said seriously. "I couldn't tell if she had good cards or bad cards. It was frustrating." Woo Bin's smile was real this time, brief but genuine. "A valuable skill in this household. Perhaps she can teach me sometime." The look he gave Maya with those words made heat pool in her stomach. She looked away quickly, focusing on her plate. After dinner, Maya read to Alessandro in his room, a massive space filled with toys and books and a bed shaped like a castle. He fell asleep within 20 minutes, his small hand clutching hers, his breathing evening out into the soft rhythm of childhood. Maya sat there for a long moment, just watching him, this little boy who'd offered her everything with a plastic ring and innocent hope, this child who'd somehow seen through all her walls to the person underneath. "He trusts you already." Maya startled. Wu Bin stood in the doorway, silent as a shadow. How long had he been there? "He shouldn't," Maya whispered, carefully extracting her hand from Alessandro and standing. "He doesn't know me." "He knows enough." Wu Bin moved into the room with that predatory grace, stopping beside Alessandro's bed. He reached down and gently smoothed his son's hair, and the gesture was so tender it made Maya's chest ache. "He knows you stayed when you could have run, that you kept your promise when you could have broken it. That's more than his mother ever did." The pain in those words was carefully controlled, but Maya heard it anyway. "What happened with his mother?" she asked softly. Wu Bin's expression shuddered. "That's not a story for tonight. Come, I'll show you something." He led her through the mansion's hallways to a door she hadn't explored yet. It opened onto his office, a space that managed to be both luxurious and intimidating. Dark wood, leather furniture, multiple computer monitors showing what looked like security feeds and financial data. But Wu Bin walked past all of that to a bar in the corner. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed one to Maya, and gestured to a leather chair. "Sit," he said. Not a command, an invitation. Maya sat. Wu Bin took the chair opposite, close enough that their knees almost touched. "Alessandro's mother left when he was 2, Wu Bin said without preamble, his dark eyes fixed on the whiskey in his glass. "She said she couldn't handle the life, the danger, the constant security, the knowledge of what I do." He looked up, meeting Maya's gaze. "What I am." "And what are you?" Maya asked, even though part of her didn't want to know the answer. Wu Bin smiled, and it was terrifying. "Exactly what you're afraid I am, the Dragon of Seoul, head of the largest organized crime family in Korea, the man other men cross the street to avoid." He took a sip of whiskey. "The monster your mother warned you about." Maya should have been terrified, should have run, should have demanded to be released from this insane contract immediately. Instead, she heard herself ask, "Do you hurt innocent people?" Wu Bin considered that. Define innocent. People who don't deserve it, people who aren't part of your world. "No," Wu Bin said slowly. "I have rules, lines I don't cross. I don't traffic in drugs or weapons. I don't exploit the desperate. I don't hurt children or civilians." His eyes hardened. "But I am ruthless with people who cross me, with people who threaten what's mine, with people who mistake mercy for weakness." He leaned forward. "So tell me, Maya Watson, now that you know what I am, are you still willing to be here? Or should I arrange for you to leave tonight, debts cleared, no questions asked?" It was a test. Maya recognized it as clearly as she recognized the tension crackling between them. She looked at him, really looked at him, at the danger he represented and the tenderness she'd seen with his son, at the monster and the man, at the fear he inspired and the protection he offered. "I'm staying. For Alessandro. He needs someone who won't leave." "For Alessandro," Wu Bin repeated, something flickering in his eyes. "Not for the money? Not for the lifestyle?" "I don't care about money," Maya said. "I care about keeping my promises. I told that little boy I'd marry him, and I'm going to make sure he knows at least one person in his life means what they say." Wu Bin stared at her for a long moment. Then he stood, drained his whiskey, and walked toward the door. But he paused before leaving. "You're going to be trouble," he said quietly. "I can already tell." "Trouble how?" Maya asked, confused. Wu Bin looked back at her, and the heat in his eyes made her breath catch. "In every way that matters," he said. Then he was gone. Maya sat alone in his office, whiskey untouched, trying to understand what had just happened, trying to ignore the way her skin still felt electric from his proximity, trying not to think about the promise she'd seen in his eyes. She was in so much trouble, and the terrifying part, she wasn't sure she wanted to escape it. The next few weeks settled into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Almost. If normal included living in a fortress, being guarded by men in suits who carried guns, and trying not to notice the way Wu Bin watched her when he thought she wasn't looking. Alessandro became the center of Maya's world. The little boy was brilliant, funny, and desperately lonely beneath his brave face. Maya read to him, played strategy games with him, listened to his elaborate stories about knights and dragons. She learned that his favorite food was strawberries, that he was terrified of thunderstorms, that he had nightmares about his mother coming back and then leaving again. "Do you think she ever thinks about me?" Alessandro asked one night after a particularly vivid nightmare. He was curled against Maya's side in his bed, small and vulnerable in a way he never let himself be during the day. "I think she thinks about you every day," Maya said gently, stroking his hair, "and I think she's sad that she's missing watching you grow up into such an incredible person." "Daddy says she was weak," Alessandro whispered, "that strong people don't run away." "Your daddy is right that strong people face hard things," Maya agreed carefully, "but sometimes people aren't ready for the challenges they're given. That's not about you, that's about her. You are lovable, Alessandro. You are worthy of being chosen. You are enough." Alessandro was quiet for a moment. Then, "Do you promise you won't leave, even when it gets hard?" "I promise," Maya said fiercely. "I'm staying right here." She felt rather than heard Wu Bin's presence in the doorway. When she looked up, he was watching them with an expression that made her breath catch. Hunger and longing, and something almost like jealousy, not of her position with Alessandro, but of the comfort Alessandro found in her presence. Later, after Alessandro was deeply asleep and Maya had returned to her room, there was a soft knock on her door. She opened it to find Wu Bin standing there, still in his suit from whatever business he'd been conducting all evening, looking exhausted in a way she'd never seen before. "Thank you," he said simply, "for what you said to him about being enough." "It's true," Maya said. "He's an amazing kid. Because of what you're giving him. Stability, kindness, the belief that he matters beyond his last name and his position." He paused. "Things I don't know how to give him." "You give him so much," Maya said, surprised by the pain in Wu Bin's voice. "He knows you love him. He knows you'd do anything to protect him." "Love and protection aren't always the same as making someone feel safe," Wu Bin said quietly. "You make him feel safe in ways I never could." He met her eyes. "You make me—" He stopped, jaw clenching. "Never mind. Good night, Maya." He turned to leave, but Maya caught his arm without thinking. His muscles tensed under her touch, and she felt the barely controlled power in him. "You make you what?" she asked softly. Wu Bin looked down at where her hand rested on his arm, then back up to her face. "You make me wish," he said, his voice rough, "that I was the kind of man who deserved someone like you. But I'm not. I never will be. So we're going to keep our boundaries, you're going to stay safe, and this arrangement will remain exactly what we agreed. Professional, temporary." He pulled away from her touch and walked down the hall, leaving Maya standing in her doorway, her hand still tingling, her heart pounding with feelings she had no right to feel for a man like him. A man who was slowly, inexorably, breaking through every defense she'd ever built. 3 weeks into her new life, Maya made a mistake that would change everything. She'd been careful, so careful to maintain professional boundaries with Wu Bin. She kept conversations focused on Alessandro. She ignored the way her pulse jumped every time he was near, the way her skin felt electric when he accidentally brushed against her, the way his rare smiles made her stomach flip. But restraint only worked when you weren't pushed to your limits. It started with a shopping trip. Wu Bin had insisted Maya needed appropriate clothing for public appearances. They'd be attending a charity gala in 2 weeks where she'd be introduced as his fiancée. Maya had protested that the clothes Era had provided were more than sufficient, but Wu Bin had been immovable. "You're representing my family now," he'd said. "That requires a certain presentation. So Maya found herself in Seoul's most exclusive shopping district with Woo Bin, Alessandro, and 2 bodyguards following at a discreet distance. Alessandro held her hand, chattering excitedly about a toy store he wanted to visit later, while Woo Bin walked beside them with that predatory grace, drawing stares from everyone they passed. The boutique they entered was the kind of place where there were no price tags, because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. The staff descended immediately, all attention focused on Woo Bin, speaking rapidly in Korean while gesturing to Maya. "They want to know your preferences," Woo Bin translated. "Colors, styles, what makes you comfortable?" "I don't know," Maya admitted. "I've never shopped anywhere like this. I usually buy clothes from—" She stopped, suddenly embarrassed. "From where?" Woo Bin asked, his dark eyes curious. "Thrift stores," Maya finished quietly. "Discount outlets. Places where $20 gets you a week's worth of outfits." Woo Bin's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. He turned to the staff and spoke in rapid Korean. They scattered immediately, returning with armfuls of clothing in jewel tones: emerald, sapphire, deep burgundy. "Your skin tone is stunning," Woo Bin said matter-of-factly, holding up a dress in midnight blue against Maya's shoulder. "These colors will make you look like royalty." He paused, his fingers lingering on the fabric near her collarbone, which is appropriate considering. Their eyes met. The air between them crackled with something dangerous. "Considering what?" Maya whispered. "Considering you're about to become Seoul's most talked-about woman," Woo Bin said softly. "The mysterious fiancée of the dragon. Every eye will be on you at that gala. Every gossip column will dissect your appearance, your background, your worthiness." His jaw clenched. "I won't give them ammunition. You'll look so magnificent they'll have nothing to say except compliments." "I don't care what they think," Maya said. "I do," Woo Bin's voice was fierce, "because they'll use you to get to me, to undermine my position, to suggest I've made a mistake." He moved closer, close enough that Maya could feel her heat radiating from him. "You're afraid of me," he said. "Not a question." "Yes," Maya admitted, "but not because you think I'll hurt you." "No," Maya whispered. "Then why?" Woo Bin's dark eyes searched hers, and Maya saw real vulnerability there. "I really need to understand." "Because," Maya said, her voice barely audible, "because I'm afraid of how much I want to trust you, how much I want to believe this is real, how much I—" She stopped herself. "How much you what?" Woo Bin's voice was rough. "How much I think about you when I shouldn't, how much I notice everything about you, how you drink your coffee black, how you always touch Alessandro's hair when you think he's asleep, how you stand at the window late at night like you're fighting battles no one else can see." She pulled her wrist free, taking a step back. "I'm afraid because this isn't supposed to be real, but it's starting to feel real, and that terrifies me." Woo Bin stared at her. Then, without a word, he closed the distance between them, cupped her face in both hands, and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was hunger and restraint breaking and weeks of denied want all crashing together at once. Maya gasped against his mouth, and Woo Bin took advantage, deepening the kiss with a desperation that matched her own. His hands slid into her hair, angling her head, and Maya gripped his shirt to keep herself steady as the world tilted. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Woo Bin pressed his forehead to hers. "This is real," he said roughly. "I don't know when it happened, I don't know how to stop it, but this, us, is the most real thing in my life right now." "Woo Bin," Maya started, but he kissed her again, softer this time, tender in a way that made her chest ache. "Don't," he murmured against her lips. "Don't overthink it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Just stay with me, here, now." So Maya did. She stayed in his arms in the doorway of his son's room, kissing him like she was drowning and he was air, until Alessandro stirred in his sleep and they pulled apart reluctantly. "Later," Woo Bin promised, his thumb tracing her swollen lips. "We'll talk later, after he's properly asleep. Afterwards, I can think clearly again." But later never came. because at dinner, everything exploded. They were halfway through the meal when Chen entered, his face grim. He whispered something to Woo Bin in Korean, and Maya watched Woo Bin's entire demeanor change, shoulders tensing, jaw clenching, eyes going cold and lethal. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing you need to worry about," Woo Bin said, but his voice was distant, already pulling away from her emotionally. "I have business to attend to. Chen will ensure you and Alessandro get to bed safely." "Business at 8 o'clock at night?" Maya pressed. Woo Bin stood, draining his wine glass. "My business doesn't keep office hours." He looked at Alessandro. "Finish your dinner. Be good for Maya." "Daddy, where are you going?" Alessandro asked, his small face worried. "Just some work, buddy. I'll be back before you wake up." Woo Bin ruffled his son's hair, then left without looking at Maya again. The warmth from their earlier kiss evaporated, replaced by cold reality. This was Woo Bin's world, dangerous, secretive, pulling him away at a moment's notice, and Maya was just the woman he'd hired to care for his son, nothing more. Except that wasn't true anymore, was it? The next morning, Woo Bin didn't appear for breakfast, or lunch. By dinner, Alessandro was anxious, asking repeatedly where his father was. Maya tried to distract him with games and stories, but even she was worried. It was past midnight when Maya heard movement downstairs. She slipped out of her room and found Woo Bin in his office, pouring whiskey with hands that shook slightly. There was blood on his collar. "Woo Bin," Maya stepped into the office. "Are you hurt?" "It's not my blood," he said flatly, not turning around. "Go back to bed, Maya." "No." She closed the door behind her and crossed to where he stood. "Talk to me. What happened?" "You don't want to know what happened," Woo Bin said, his voice dangerous. "You don't want to know what I did tonight, what I'm capable of when people cross lines." "Try me," Maya said. Woo Bin finally looked at her, and the coldness in his eyes made her breath catch. "One of my captains betrayed me, sold information to a rival family, information about Alessandro's schedule, about you." He drained his whiskey. "I spent the evening making sure he understood that betrayal has consequences." "You killed him," Maya said, not a question. "Eventually," Woo Bin confirmed, "after he told me everything, after I made sure no one else would ever consider making the same mistake." He poured more whiskey, his movements jerky. "This is who I am, Maya. This is what I do. I hurt people. I end people. I am the monster everyone says I am." "You're also the man who reads bedtime stories to his son, who makes sure Alessandro feels safe, who cleared my debts without a second thought, who kissed me like I was precious." "That man is a lie," Woo Bin said harshly, "a mask I wear. The truth is blood and violence and decisions that would make you run screaming." Maya crossed to him, took the whiskey glass from his hand and set it aside. Then she took his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. "The truth," she said firmly, "is that you're both, the monster and the man, the violence and the tenderness, and I'm not running." "You should," Woo Bin said, but his hands came up to grip her wrists, holding her in place. "You should be terrified of me." "I am terrified," Maya admitted, "but not of you. I'm terrified of losing this, of losing you, of going back to a life where I'm just surviving instead of living." Woo Bin's control shattered. He pulled her against him, kissing him with a desperation that bordered on violence. Maya kissed him back just as fiercely, tasting whiskey and want and something deeper. His hands were everywhere, her hair, her back, her waist, pulling her closer like he couldn't get enough. "Maya," he groaned against her mouth, "if we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. You'll be mine, really mine, and I don't share, I don't let go. I'm possessive and jealous and—" "Good," Maya interrupted, pulling him toward the leather couch, "because so am I." Fade to black. Passion, desperation, claiming. What happened next was fire and hunger and two people finally giving in to weeks of denied attraction. Clothes disappeared, skin found skin. Woo Bin whispered things in Korean that Maya didn't understand but felt in her bones. She left marks on his shoulders with her nails. He left marks on her neck with his mouth. And when they finally came together, it felt like something breaking and mending at once. Barriers crumbling, defenses falling, two people who'd been alone for too long finding home in each other. Later, wrapped in Woo Bin's shirt on his office couch, Maya traced the dragon tattoo she could see across his shoulders and down his back. Each scale was intricate, detailed, beautiful, and terrible at once. "Each scale is someone you've killed," she said softly, remembering what he'd told her weeks ago. "Yes," Woo Bin confirmed, his hand stroking her hair. "How many?" "Too many to count anymore." He pulled her closer. "Does that horrify you?" "It should," Maya admitted, "but all I can think about is that you've survived in a world that tried to kill you, that you've protected your son through impossible circumstances, that you're still capable of tenderness despite everything." She kissed his shoulder. "You're not a monster, Woo Bin. You're just a man doing monstrous things to protect what's his." Woo Bin was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I love you." Maya's breath caught. "What?" "I love you," Woo Bin repeated, turning to look at her. "I didn't plan to. I didn't want to. Love is a weakness in my world. But you walked into my life with your kindness and your strength and your refusal to be impressed by my power, and you broke through every defense I had." He cupped her face. "I love you, Maya Watson, and that terrifies me more than any enemy I've ever faced." "Because love is vulnerability," Maya whispered, understanding. "Because love is knowing that if anything happened to you, I would burn the world down to ashes," Woo Bin said. "Because love means you have the power to destroy me completely." "I love you too," Maya said. "I probably have for weeks. I just didn't want to admit it." Woo Bin kissed her softly. "No more pretending. No more temporary arrangements. This is real. You're mine. I'm yours. We'll figure out the rest." But the rest came for them sooner than expected. The following morning, Maya woke in Woo Bin's bed. She'd been carried there sometime during the night to find him already dressed, speaking urgently in Korean on the phone. His expression was thunderous. "What's wrong?" Maya asked, sitting up. Woo Bin ended the call. "Alessandro's mother is in Seoul. She's filed an emergency custody petition claiming I'm an unfit parent." His jaw clenched. "She's claiming you're a destabilizing influence, that I'm prioritizing a relationship over my son's well-being." "That's insane," Maya said. "She's the one who abandoned him." "She's also the daughter of the Yamamoto Yakuza family," Woo Bin said grimly. "One of the most powerful criminal organizations in Japan. She has resources, influence, and she's demanding that Alessandro be returned to her custody immediately." "Can she do that? Legally?" "In my world, legal doesn't matter as much as power," Woo Bin said, "and she's bringing her family's power to bear." He came to sit on the bed, taking Maya's hands. "This is going to get dangerous, ugly. She'll come after you to weaken my position. She'll use every dirty trick available. If you want to leave, to protect yourself, I'll arrange it. I'll make sure you're safe and provided for." "I'm not leaving," Maya said firmly. "I'm not abandoning Alessandro, or you." "Even if it means putting yourself in the crosshairs of a Yakuza family?" "Especially then," Maya said. "We're family now. Family doesn't run." Woo Bin pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly it almost hurt. "I don't deserve you," he whispered against her hair. "Lucky for you, I don't care what you deserve," Maya said. "I care what Alessandro needs, and he needs both of us, together." The custody battle began immediately. Woo Bin's lawyers filed countermotions. Alessandro's mother, Yuki Yamamoto, arrived with an entourage that looked more like an invasion force. The estate security increased to military levels, and Maya watched Woo Bin transform into something even more dangerous than she'd seen before. He was cold, calculating. Every move is precise and lethal. He met with his captains daily, planning strategies that Maya only half understood. He strengthened alliances with other families. He dug up dirt on Yuki's life in Japan, the affairs, the gambling debts, the neglect of duty that had weakened her position in the Yamamoto family. But the toll it took on him was evident. Maya saw it in the tension in his shoulders, the shadows under his eyes, the way he held Alessandro just a little too tightly every night before bed. "She's not taking him," Wubin said one night, standing at the window of his office while Maya watched from the doorway. "I don't care what it costs. I don't care who I have to destroy. She's not taking my son." "Our son," Maya corrected gently. "He's ours now." Wubin turned to look at her, and the vulnerability in his eyes made her chest ache. "You mean that?" "I've meant anything more," Maya said. She crossed to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "We're going to win this, together." But winning came with a price neither of them expected. 2 weeks later, Maya was taking Alessandro to his taekwondo lesson when everything went wrong. Chen was driving, 2 security cars following. They'd stopped at a red light in downtown Seoul when Maya noticed the cars around them were positioned strangely, too close, too deliberate. "Chen," she said quietly, "something's—" The impact came from 3 directions at once. The security cars were hit first, disabled instantly. Then their car was surrounded, doors yanked open, hands grabbing for Alessandro. Maya didn't think, she just acted, pulling Alessandro against her, kicking out at the attacker trying to drag him away, screaming for help. Chen was fighting too, but there were too many of them. "Let him go," one of the attackers yelled in English. "Just the boy, the woman doesn't matter." "You're not touching him," Maya shouted, wrapping herself completely around Alessandro. "You'll have to go through me first." Someone hit her, hard. Maya felt her head crack against the car frame, saw stars, but kept her grip on Alessandro. She heard the little boy crying, felt him trembling, and used every ounce of strength she had to hold on. Then there was gunfire, screaming. The attackers scattered, and suddenly Wu Bin was there, appearing like an avenging angel, gun in hand, rage on his face that was absolutely terrifying. "Get them out," he roared at Chen, who was bleeding from a head wound but still functional. "Now." Chen dragged Maya and Alessandro into one of the damaged security cars and floored it, leaving Wu Bin and reinforcements to handle the attackers. At the estate, doctors treated Maya's head wound, a concussion but nothing critical, while Alessandro clung to her, refusing to let go. Wu Bin arrived an hour later, covered in blood that definitely wasn't his expression murderous. "Is he hurt?" Wu Bin demanded, crossing straight to them. "No," Maya said. "Scared, but not hurt. I didn't let them—" She didn't get to finish because Wu Bin pulled her into his arms, crushing her against him. His whole body was shaking. "You could have died," he said hoarsely. "You should have let them take him. I would have gotten him back. But you, if I'd lost you—" "I'm okay," Maya whispered. "We're both okay." Wu Bin pulled back enough to cup her face, and Maya saw tears in his eyes. Actual tears. "You protected him with your own body. You didn't hesitate. You—" His voice broke. "You're the bravest person I've ever met." "He's my son too," Maya said simply. "That's what mothers do." Alessandro, still pressed between them, looked up at Maya with wide eyes. "You called yourself my mother?" he said wonderingly. "Is that okay?" Maya asked, suddenly nervous. Alessandro threw his arms around her neck. "I always wanted to call you Mom. Daddy said I had to wait until you were ready." Maya looked at Wu Bin through tears. "I'm ready," she said. "I've been ready for weeks." That night, after Alessandro was finally asleep, in Wu Bin's bed, between his parents because no one could bear to let him out of sight, Maya and Wu Bin stood on the balcony of their bedroom, watching the city lights. "I know who ordered the attack," Wu Bin said quietly. "Yuki. She wanted to take Alessandro during the custody process, make it look like I couldn't protect him." "What are you going to do?" Maya asked. Wu Bin's expression was cold. "I'm going to end this, permanently." "Don't do anything that puts you at risk," Maya pleaded. "We need you. Both of us need you." "Which is exactly why I have to do this," Wu Bin said. "She'll keep coming, keep threatening, keep trying to take him. The only way to stop it is to remove her power completely." He turned to Maya. "Trust me, I'm very good at destroying my enemies." The Seven Families Summit happened 3 days later, a gathering of the most powerful crime families in East Asia, held at a neutral location to discuss territory disputes and settle feuds. Wu Bin brought Maya and Alessandro with him, surrounded by so much security it looked like a presidential motorcade. "Why are we here?" Maya asked as they entered the hotel where the summit was being held. Because I'm about to make a statement, Wu Bin said, and I want everyone to see what I'm protecting. The summit hall was massive, filled with dangerous-looking men and a few dangerous-looking women, all dressed expensively, all radiating power. Yuki was there with her father, the head of the Yamamoto family, and she smiled coldly when she saw them. Song Wu-bin, the summit mediator said, "You've requested emergency arbitration regarding custody of your son. Present your case." What followed was 2 hours of legal arguments, character assassinations, and barely veiled threats. Yuki's lawyers painted Maya as an unstable influence, a gold digger, a woman with no understanding of their world. They demanded Alessandro be returned to his mother's custody immediately. Then it was Wu Bin's turn. "My son's mother abandoned him 3 years ago," Wu Bin said, his voice carrying across the hall. "She left him crying in his crib, walked out, and never looked back. She didn't call on his birthdays, she didn't check on his health. She showed no interest in his life until I became engaged to a woman who actually loves him." He stood, commanding the attention of every person in the room. "And when she realized she couldn't manipulate me through legal channels, she ordered an attack on my son, an attempt to kidnap him in daylight beef." Gasps rippled through the hall. Yuki paled. "I have video evidence, testimony from captured attackers, financial records showing payments from Yamamoto accounts to the men who tried to take my son." He turned to look directly at Yuki. "You didn't come back because you love Alessandro. You came back because you're desperate to regain status in your family, and you thought having an heir would help your position." "That's not true," Yuki protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Wu Bin pulled out his phone, projecting images onto the large screens around the room. Messages, financial transfers, photos of Yuki with various men who definitely weren't Alessandro's father. "This is who wants custody of my son," Wu Bin said. "A woman who abandoned him, forgot him, and then tried to kidnap him when legal methods failed." He looked around the room at all the powerful families watching. "I'm asking for emergency revocation of all parental rights, complete severance. She never contacts him again. She never threatens him again. Or I will consider it an act of war against the Song family." The vote was unanimous. Yuki lost all rights to Alessandro. She stood, her face twisted with rage and humiliation. "You'll regret this," she hissed at Wu Bin. "All of you will regret this." "The only regret I have," Wu Bin said coldly, "is that I ever trusted you with something as precious as my son's heart." Yuki stormed out with her entourage. The summit continued with other business, but Maya barely paid attention. She was watching Wu Bin, seeing the tension drain from his shoulders, seeing him finally breathe freely. It was over. Really over. That evening, back at the estate, they had a quiet dinner, just the three of them. Alessandro was more relaxed than Maya had seen him in weeks, chattering happily about a new book he wanted to read, about taekwondo moves he was learning, about the treehouse he wanted Wu Bin to build in the garden. "Can Maya help design it?" Alessandro asked. "She knows about architecture, she told me." "Did she?" Wu Bin looked at Maya with interest. "I didn't know that." "I studied it in college," Maya admitted. Before everything went wrong with my family, I wanted to design sustainable housing for low-income communities." "Maybe you still can," Wu Bin said quietly. "Maybe that's a project we could fund, together." Later, after Alessandro was asleep and Maya and Wu Bin were alone in their bedroom, Wu Bin pulled her into his arms and just held her. "It's really over," he said against her hair. "She can't touch him, can't touch us." "What happens now?" Maya asked. "Now," Wu Bin said, pulling back to look at her, "we get married. For real. Not as part of an arrangement, not as protection for Alessandro, but because I love you and I want you as my wife." He dropped to one knee, pulling out a ring box Maya had never seen before. Inside was a ring that took her breath away, an emerald surrounded by diamonds, the craftsmanship exquisite. "Maya Watson," Wu Bin said, his voice rough with emotion, "you came into my life as a temporary solution and became my permanent salvation. You love my son like he's your own. You face down danger without flinching. You see the man beneath the monster. Will you marry me? Really marry me? Spend your life with us?" "Yes," Maya said through tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." Wu Bin slipped the ring onto her finger, right beside the plastic ring from Alessandro that she'd never removed, and pulled her into a kiss that promised forever. The wedding happened a month later, not a huge public spectacle, but an intimate ceremony in the estate's garden with the people who mattered, Wu Bin's most trusted captains and their families, Ara and Chen, Alessandro's tutors and friends, and Alessandro himself, wearing a miniature tuxedo that matched his father's, served as ring-bearer with the utmost seriousness. Maya wore emerald silk, Wu Bin's request, and carried white orchids. When she walked down the aisle on Chen's arm, her chosen escort since her own family was absent, she saw Wu Bin waiting for her with an expression of such open love it made her cry. The vows were traditional Korean mixed with English, a blending of cultures that represented their merged lives. Wu Bin promised to protect and cherish her. Maya promised to stand beside him through darkness and light. And when the officiant pronounced them married, Alessandro cheered so loudly it made everyone laugh. At the reception, Wu Bin pulled Maya onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. The song was in Korean, something slow and romantic that Wu Bin translated quietly as they moved together. It's about finding home in another person, about two people from different worlds creating something new together. That's us, Maya said, resting her head on his chest. Different worlds, same home. Same home, Wu Bin agreed. He pulled back enough to look at her, cupping her face. Thank you. For what? For saying yes to a 5-year-old's proposal, Wu Bin said with a soft smile. For staying when you could have run. For loving us when we didn't know how to ask for love. He kissed her softly. For becoming exactly what we needed. I needed you too, Maya said. I just didn't know it until a little boy in a $1,000 suit asked me to marry him behind a restaurant counter. They danced until Alessandro insisted on cutting in, and then Maya danced with her son while Wu Bin watched with an expression of such fierce love and pride it made her heart overflow. Later that night, after the guests had left and Alessandro was asleep in his room, now decorated with the treehouse blueprints he and Maya had designed together, Wu Bin led Maya to the master suite balcony. Seoul sparkled below them, millions of lights in the darkness. Wu Bin wrapped his arms around Maya from behind, pulling her against his chest. Happy? Deliriously, I admitted, also terrified. Your world is still dangerous. There will still be threats. There will, Wu Bin agreed, but we'll face them together. You, me, and Alessandro. A family. A family, Maya repeated. She turned in his arms to face him. I love you, Wu Bin, my dangerous, protective, surprisingly tender dragon. I love you, Maya, my brave, beautiful, stubborn queen. He kissed her under the soul stars, and Maya felt something settle in her chest, a sense of belonging she'd never experienced before. This was home. Not the mansion or the luxury or the security, but this man and his son, this family they'd built from a little boy's innocent proposal and a woman's desperate situation. They'd started with a playful promise and built something real, something lasting, something worth fighting for. And as Wu Bin carried her inside, both of them laughing, both of them free, Maya sent up a silent thank you to whatever fate had brought her to that restaurant kitchen on that particular night. Because sometimes the most unexpected promises lead to the most extraordinary love stories. And sometimes, just sometimes, saying yes to a little boy in a plastic ring changes everything.